What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Ben on Sports. This episode is the NASCAR Weekly Prediction Series. NASCAR was off for Easter last Sunday, but they're back to short track racing, going from the paperclip of Martinsville to the high banked half-mile track of Bristol. Let's get to it. Some storylines over the last 2 weeks. Chase Elliott gets back in the victory lane, getting Chevy their first win of the season. As you can see, that's another one of my storylines. But Chase Elliott gets the victory lane in Martinsville after having a borderline top 10 car most of the day. Will the 9 fans get off of Alan Gustafson's back now? That was a good strategy call that ended up working out. It was a gamble. Let's call it what it is. It was a gamble, and it was very close to going wrong. But they got the caution when they needed it, shook things up, and allowed them to take control of the race. Maybe they deserve credit. I think it always takes guts to make that call, but it also seemed like their car was shutting off and they needed to come in anyway. So maybe it's a 50-50, but everything is better when you're winning. The 11 team chokes the win away. Variety of things, the loose wheel, Denny Hamlin having a bad first restart, getting in the Blaney, just all kinds of stuff happened in like 10 laps, and in my opinion that caused the 11 team as a whole, driver included, to lose that race, a race that they dominated and should have won, and they could never get close enough to the 9 to pass them. Despite getting the gap closed a little bit, they couldn't get it closed all the way. Chase Elliott held them off long enough to pick up that win. SVG might be figuring out the ovals, and it's not that he's placing well and qualifying well. He qualified really well last week, got some stage points, ran in the top 10, finished 11th, but he significantly outran both of his teammates, one of which is usually very good at this track, and Ross Chastain. So maybe SVG is figuring out these ovals and is going to continue to find good days here, where those those days where he is undoubtedly going to dominate a road course, whether it happens as much this year as it did last year, is going to put him in a really good point situation. SVG really in his second full season at the Cup Series is really seeming to get a hang at some of these oval tracks. Let's see if he can consistently keep it up. Some good news: after battling Virgo for the better part of a month, Alex Bowman is finally back this week. He will be in the 48 Ally Chevy for Hendrick Motorsports. It's never good to see a driver miss time with injuries, and it's good to see Alex Bowman back. Another big point that I have this week: can we fix the cautions? We shouldn't be running 15 minutes worth of caution laps, especially at a half-mile track where it's 15-ish laps of caution. It's so silly. It makes people want to turn the channel at home. What if they turn the channel and they find something more interesting and they don't come back, right? It's boring for the fans at the track, but there's no reason to be running that many caution laps. It's ridiculous. The cautions need to be fixed. We shouldn't be running that much. It's also affecting the racing. Imagine a run that's 10 extra laps longer. That could change the whole picture of the race, no? Fix the cautions. It's horrendous. I don't care about TV. At some point, TV has to want to care about the overall product. Fox Sports is doing nothing to make themselves seem better in the eyes of the fans. Way too many caution laps. They're blaming it on the TV. There has to be a compromise. It's going to hurt NASCAR's viewership. It's going to hurt the in-person experience. So why are we going to continue to run many caution laps? I don't care about the commercials. You can run side by side or something. And number 8, a big storyline these last 2 weeks has been Hall of Fame discussions brought up by Dirty Mo Media employees, a producer in particular. And some people feel very strongly, and some people are very upset. And this is what I'll say. I think it's a fair point. Excuse me. I think it's a fair point. Listen, on one hand, I think there should be recognition for guys who have really good O'Reilly or Truck Series careers, right? Whatever you want to say. But they're also not doing it at the top level of the Cup Series. And if we want to play the what-if game, they need to be in the Hall of Fame because they had an excellent O'Reilly Series career. They just never got the opportunity at the Cup Series. Well, A, that rarely happens, but B, Okay, what if they get it? If you want to play the what if game, what if they go to the Cup Series and aren't very good? Or what if some of these Cup Series drivers that were really, really good in the O'Reilly Series for a year or two go to the Cup Series and aren't racing with one of the best teams that consistently bring speed, just stayed in the O'Reilly Series? Maybe they would be really, really good there. Let's play this example out. Justin Allgaier. I love Justin Allgaier. He's undoubtedly a great guy. He's great for NASCAR. He's incredible in the O'Reilly Series. But his Cup Series career is not that good when he's got the opportunity, and he's gotten the opportunity to race for a Hendrick Motorsports Chevy a lot, and that's arguably the best opportunity in all of NASCAR, and still hasn't put together the performances. Let's go to somebody like Cole Custer. Dominates the O'Reilly Series in some aspects, has won a championship down there, has won a lot of races down there, goes to the Cup Series, and outside of one crazy finish at Kentucky where he restarted fourth behind cars that were faster than him, but those cars get into each other and he wins. Really not that good of a Cup Series career, arguably a bad one. AJ Allmendinger has some wins, but he used to be a championship contender just about every single year in the O'Reilly Series. And yeah, say what you want about his team, he's not a contender. He's a good season for them is making the playoffs. And then you see drivers that maybe struggle sometimes in the Cup Series go down to the O'Reilly Series and they perform really well. Okay? So this is what I think we have to have this debate about. Do we want the Hall of Fame to be the best of the best that have success at the highest levels? If that's the case, then if you don't have success in the Cup Series, you shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. And to me, that's what the Hall of Fame is. People that have success at the highest level of their particular field. The highest level of stock car racing is the NASCAR Cup Series. And I believe there's a fair argument to be made. If you don't have success at the highest level of the Cup Series, you probably don't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Now, if you want the Hall of Fame to be for accomplishments across that across your career, then that's fine, but that's kind of watering down what the Hall of Fame should be. I agree that there's accomplishments that need to be enshrined from lower series, but that's what the with the NASCAR museum is for, right? The NASCAR history, like in my opinion, the best way to handle this, the only way that makes everybody happy, which is hard to do, why don't we have different Hall of Fames, or like inside the NASCAR Hall of Fame have different sections for different series, and then there's people that can say you're in the Hall of Fame, but you're also can be in the Hall of Fame for other series. So like the NASCAR Hall of Fame proper is people who have success at the highest level, the true best drivers. But then maybe somebody like Matt Crafton, who's been really good in the truck series, but never really done a whole lot else, right? Maybe he's in the NASCAR Truck Series Hall of Fame. And then you have the NASCAR O'Reilly Series Hall of Fame. And then you can still acknowledge those drivers who have been good in that series while also acknowledging what they're doing is not as difficult as, or not the same as what somebody that has been doing it at the Cup Series for a long time has been doing. Anyway, Hall of Fame discussions, should Truck Series and Xfinity guys be involved? Quite frankly, I think there's some people that are loved in the sport that haven't succeeded at the Cup Series, that have succeeded at those lower levels, and because we love them, we want them to be in the Hall of Fame, but that's not always the case, okay? Those are my thoughts on it. I think unless we restructure or reconfigure the idea of what it means to be in the Cup Series or what it means to be in the Hall of Fame, it should just be the Cup Series. Moving on, that's enough of those storylines, enough of discussion. Let me know in the comments below how you feel about this Hall of Fame discussion. Should it be everybody? Should it just be Cup Series? Let me know in the comments. History at Bristol in the next gen. Remember in 2022 and 2023, there was only one Bristol race because the first one was the Dirt Bristol race. But the recent winners, Chris Buescher won in 2022 on that super hot stretch he got on, that super hot streak. Denny Hamlin then won back-to-back in September of 23 and May of 24. And then Kyle Larson went back-to-back in September of 24, in spring of 25. And then Christopher Bell won Bristol last September. Best average finish in the next gen, Christopher Bell at 5.2. Kyle Larson at 7.7 is second. Denny Hamlin at 8 is third. They are the only three drivers averaging better than a top 10. And then a pair of RFK cars, Chris Buescher at 10.3 and Brad Keselowski at 11.3. RFK has been getting better and better on these short tracks in the next gen. They had a good week last week, and they already have two drivers who have performed well here in the next gen. Look out for RFK this week. Most top fives, Kyle Larson, 5 out of the 6 races have been in the top 5. 2 drivers are tied at 4, Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell. And then 5 drivers are tied at 2 top 5s, Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, Chris Buescher, Ty Gibbs, and Chase Elliott. This is maybe Ty Gibbs' best track. More on that later. Most top 10s, Christopher Bell. 6 top 10s in 6 races. 2 drivers are tied at 5 in Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson. 2 drivers are tied at 4 in Ty Gibbs and Chase Elliott. And then 7 drivers are tied at 3 top 10s at Bristol. Chris Buescher, Brad Keselowski, Ross Chastain, William Byron, Chase Briscoe, Ryan Blaney, and Alex Bowman, who is racing this week. So who do I have as my favorites? Understanding that history, seeing what's happened so far this year. Well, Hendrick Motorsports is my favorite. Joe Gibbs Racing 2, those two go 1 and 2 a lot, just like they were kind of 1-2 at Martinsville. I have them 1-2 this week at Bristol. But I have RFK Racing stepping up to take 3. I mentioned it. Keselowski and Buescher have both been good here in the next gen. They've both been good at a lot of the short tracks. RFK is consistently finding speed at short tracks. Even Ryan Preece is doing well. These cars always seem to run all 3 of them seem to be top 15. They seem to be able to hit the top 10. And if they put it all together, they can have top 5 cars. So RFK is third ahead of Team Penske because in the next gen, RFK has been more consistent than Penske at this track. In fact, Ryan Blaney is Penske's only driver that I feel confident gets a top 10, and I could see a world where all 3 RFK cars get a top 10. Definitely feel confident about them getting a top 15. I look for RFK to be the best Ford team this weekend and Team Penske in 4th. And then I don't really have a good one. It's kind of all over the place. I thought about Trackhouse, but they haven't been consistent really. Ross Chastain is usually their guy on short tracks, and he hasn't been great this season. I look at Spire. They could very well be this 5th team. I thought about all kinds of teams, but I said it on 23XI. They haven't had the success quite yet at Bristol, but they've done a really good job at bringing speed every week. I would argue they're the most consistently fast team with both Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick, even if Bubba Wallace's results last week didn't match up with it. But I trust 23XI to bring speed. So far this year, they've shown it to me. Reddick has struggled at Martinsville for most of the next gen, and he bought speed last week. Maybe the same thing happens at Bristol. So I went ahead and said, based off the success this season, I put 23XI at 5. My driver rankings, Kyle Larson is my favorite. Surely he can't win 3 in a row, but he hasn't. Surely he won't win his 3rd Bristol race in 7 starts in the next gen series, in the next gen era. Maybe he does, but Kyle Larson is my favorite, followed by Denny Hamlin. Those are the only 2 guys that have won multiple races at Bristol in the next gen series. So they're both going to share as kind of co-favorites in this race for me. They also have lots of top 5s and top 10s. Christopher Bell, the most recent winner here, one of the best average finishes here. Lots of top 5s and top 10s. Those 3 are kind of the big 3, I think, this weekend. Larson, Hamlin, and Bell. They're the 3 that are the most consistent at this track in the next gen era. They're the ones that I expect to see consistent speed from. Ty Gibbs, this is arguably his best track. Ty Gibbs is on an absolute heater right now. Top 5 after top 5 after top 5. Going into his best track. Maybe this is finally the week Ty Gibbs gets his first win. I expect him to stay in the top 5 at his best track. Chris Buescher has a great average finish here. He's just been steady Eddie. He's just one of the most consistent drivers in the field. Got caught up in somebody else's mess last week, but he seems like he usually can get to good finishes, especially at this track. Chris Buescher 5th. Chase Elliott coming off the win has good stats at Bristol in the next gen. I think he's in this 2nd tier of drivers with Buescher and Ty Gibbs. Chase Elliott always seems to get the best out of his cars. Chase Elliott 6th. Brad Keselowski has been good here. That 6 car is getting more and more consistent on terms of what they bring to the track. They have been really good on short tracks as a program. Give me Brad Keselowski 7. Ryan Blaney hasn't been great at Bristol. He's had a couple of nice runs there. He's Penske's best hope. Ryan Blaney, it's hard to leave him off the top 10 at any oval track because he's that good of a driver. Penske's best hope this week, I have him at 8. Maybe he finally breaks through and figures out Bristol this week. William Byron may not have necessarily the best stats all the time at Bristol, but I still think in a Hendrick car, he's going to be good. I still think Byron can be fast here. He's shown it, just hasn't shown it consistently. Had one of his better races, maybe his best race of the season last week, with a good rebound. William Byron, 9. And this guy's about to fall off my list. He's been good at Bristol. Joe Gibbs knows how to bring a fast car to Bristol. He's struggled all season so far, but Chase Briscoe, these top-tier teams seem to do well at these short tracks. He's on a top-tier team. His team has been fast here. They haven't been bringing speed recently. Maybe the extra week gets them ready. Chase Briscoe at 10, although I must say I don't love it. Keep in mind, this is also going to be a race this week. On terms of these favorites, tire wear has been crazy at Bristol the last couple races. I expect it to do the same thing this week and be absolute crazy. Tires are going to be important. Track positions are going to be important. And for my bi-yearly Bristol rant, I'm going to go ahead and give it to you guys now. On terms of track position and tire wear and everything, it doesn't matter because in 2008, one of the greatest disservices in NASCAR history happened, and they redid Bristol. Okay, Bristol was arguably one of the best tracks on the entire schedule for so long. It sold out all the time. It's a massive, massive track. I believe it has the third highest seating capacity as a half-mile track in all of NASCAR, only behind Indianapolis and Daytona. And what do? They changed the track, and now they have trouble selling tickets because it's a freaking carousel around there. It's just a line. They put the PJ1 down, and while the PJ1 is down, it's better because you can run inside and outside. But when the PJ1 is gone, or when it's not working effectively, everybody just has to sit in a line and run around the outside. Because in 2008, they repaved the track, and it was a horrible disservice to NASCAR. Bristol was always one of my favorite tracks growing up, and they ruined it. Bristol at its peak is one of the best tracks in NASCAR. It's the best short track in NASCAR, and it's a very unique track where it's high banking, half mile, and you can run the inside or you can run the outside, and it's not always the same. I'll get off of this, but teams that can bring fast cars and drivers that can control tire wear, those are the teams you need to look out for, and that's why a lot of these guys are at the front. I'll get off my high horse. Let me know in the comments if you agree with my Bristol rant. I'm going to keep giving you guys homework today. That's the second thing I want to see in the comments, and I'll have a third thing, and that is let me know who you think the favorites to win this week are. And as we're to week 7, guys, regular season the points are the only thing that matter. How many wins you have, it doesn't matter anymore. We're on the new playoff system, so I figured it's time for me to start showing the regular season standings now that they have largely started to average out after the crazy start to the year. Tyler Reddick still with a massive lead in first at 353. And then we kind of have this second group of drivers in Blaney, Hamlin, and Elliott. Blaney has 271. Hamlin has 259. Elliott has 249. There are drivers that are trying to stay in touch with Reddick. So usually it's when Reddick goes on a bad stretch just because everybody has him throughout the season, those drivers can catch back up with him. But those drivers have shown speed on a variety of tracks, been able to get good days and points, and they're the other people that have won. Who would have thought the 4 drivers that have won all the races are 1, 2, 3, 4 in the regular season standings? Clearly winning races is important. Then we have this second group of drivers that is filled with people who have ability. One guy who's on a super hot stretch. Ty Gibbs and Christopher Bell are kind of in between these groups. Ty Gibbs at 222, Christopher Bell at 212. They're over 130 points back of Reddick already just in 6th and 7th. But Gibbs on this super hot stretch has gone from like 20th outside the top 20 all the way to 6th, and he's only 16 points back of Byron. Another good day could have Gibbs knocking on the door. Christopher Bell finding a way to get good finishes. He's at 212. And then 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th all have 206 points. Brad Keselowski, Kyle Larson, Chris Buescher, and Bubba Wallace are all tied at 206 points. Bubba Wallace was second behind his teammate Tyler Reddick for the first month of the season. He's been in the top 5, and then last week, a dumb move trying to take Carson Hocevar out because he was mad he took him 3 wide. Wrecks himself in the process, gets an awful finish, and now he's 11th, or I guess I should say tied for 8th in points instead of top 5 in points. But 8, 9, 10, 11 all tied at 206, 147 points back of Tyler Reddick. Joey Logano and Ryan Preece are both kind of been finding ways to get good finishes, finding ways to get points where they can. They're 12th and 13th. Logano at 185, Preece at 180. And then 14th on points without a win, Shane Van Gisbergen, only one road course, so he's been finding speed on ovals. Shane Van Gisbergen in 14th in points at 174. And then 15, 16, 17. It's the Spire Motorsports guys. The Spire Motorsports has a legitimate chance to land one, if not multiple cars in the playoffs this year. Hocevar 15th with 171, Suarez 16th with 167, and McDowell 17th with 158. Spire Motorsports right now making up the 16-car cut line in 15th, 16th, and 17th, all just separated by 13 points. 18th, Austin Cindric at 149, still struggling, has had a good week last week, has had some good races, also has some really bad. Cindric needs to work on consistency, in my opinion, and he can really make a push towards the top 10, because when he has speed, he's good at taking advantage, but their bad days are really, really bad. They need to find a way to do more when they maybe aren't fast. Ross Chastain's still struggling to start the year. He's in 19th with 136. And then AJ Allmendinger rounds out the top 20 at 134. Some big names maybe you're used to seeing up front aren't close to the front. Some aren't even in the top 20. We have a Championship 4 driver from last year that's not even in the top 20 in points in Chase Briscoe. He's 21st. Didn't take advantage of some races where he's had speed to start the season, and then they haven't had speed, so they're not getting stage points. It's a whole mess. He is 21st, and we have seen drivers have charged to the front rather quickly. A month-long hot streak, and you could be in the top 10. And then Alex Bowman is obviously somebody you would expect to see up there, but again, he's missed 4 races this year. Kyle Busch, you would expect to at least be able to be top 20, but that team is just struggling so bad right now. But you see all the RFK cars in the playoffs right now. Spire Motorsports is right there in 14th, 15th, or 15th, 16th, and 17th. A lot of teams maybe you don't expect to be consistent, especially as an entire organization, are finding ways to stay near the front. Shane Van Gisbergen, just as he did last week, pacing his teammates in the Trackhouse stable. Here's your regular season standings as it sits. Plenty of time for these to get shaken up. Moving on to the power rankings. Remember, my power rankings are kind of my vibes. I look at what they've done so far, how they ran in the last race, their speed where they should be. Like, if a driver should have more speed or has been showing speed, but maybe isn't getting the finishes. I look at their points. I put all of the stuff in my head, messing around with some vibes maybe, and then throw out where I think these drivers stand. But one thing you cannot change is Tyler Reddick is number 1 and deserves to be there. Big points lead, has won 4 of the 7 races. Tyler Reddick first in my power rankings. Denny Hamlin, number 2. He's putting together quite a few good weeks in a row, getting lots of points. Still only 3rd in the points race, but led a boatload of laps, was the fastest car last week. Just got caught up in some strategy that made him finish 2nd. I still have him 2nd in my power rankings. Chase Elliott, after the win, is up to 3rd. He'd struggled a little bit in some races to start the year. Finds victory lane. He always finds ways to get good finishes or make the best of a bad day. And because of that, he's 4th in points and is 3rd in my power rankings. Ryan Blaney wasn't slow last week. Obviously had that contact with Denny Hamlin that kind of maybe cost him a couple spots at the end of the race, maybe even a chance to compete. He had a good long-run car at Martinsville. Feels like he always does. But Ryan Blaney in 4th. 2nd in points, 4th in the power rankings. Those top 4 have kind of separated themselves in the first 2 months of the season. Ty Gibbs, I have fifth. He is not top 5 in points, but he's not too far back, and he's maybe the hottest driver in NASCAR right now, putting together top 5 after top 5. The best stretch of his young career, in my opinion, has been these last couple weeks. Ty Gibbs in fifth. William Byron in sixth, had a good recovery last week, a good points week. I think Byron is starting to wake up out of what felt like a slumber. We might be getting regular William Byron soon and seeing him running near the front. Kyle Larson didn't have a great week, but he's still Kyle Larson. He's still top 10 in points. He's in seventh right now. Not the dominant Kyle Larson we're used to seeing. He's shown flashes this year. They just need to bring some more consistency. Christopher Bell, eighth, had just an okay day. He's still good on points. He's still shown speed. Going to a track where he's the most recent winner, maybe Christopher Bell gets his first win and figures it out this week. Chris Buescher, I feel like, is on points, is always in that 8 to 12 range, kind of hanging around in the top 10. He always finds ways to kind of run there during the race, as long as he's not caught up in other people's messes. Chris Buescher, I have ninth. He's in a good, a not too bad point situation. Again, part of that massive group, part of that massive 4-way tie. So he's good on points. Has shown some speed, especially on short tracks like his teammates. Chris Buescher is ninth. Shane Van Gisbergen, I'm giving 10 because he's 14th in points. He had maybe the most impressive oval race of his career last week. And for him, if that's the ability, if he's going to be able to run top 10, I know he finished 11th, but he was top 10 essentially the whole race and got good stage points. I think Shane Van Gisbergen could be a threat to have legitimate top 10, maybe even top 8 championship rankings. So Shane Van Gisbergen, I'm giving 10 because he impressed me so much this week. Brad Keselowski, a good run last week. I have him in 11th. Again, he's another guy that's good on points, off to a good solid start to the season. And number 13, Joey Logano. Joey Logano I have at 13, had a decent run at Martinsville. He usually does, going into a Bristol track that he has not been good at in the next gen. He's okay on points, but Joey Logano needs some consistency, something that, in my opinion, has eluded him much of the next gen era. Ryan Preece, kind of like his teammates, I have Ryan Preece in 14th. Chase Briscoe, I have all the way down to 15th. They just don't, they seem like they had speed at the beginning of the year, but they couldn't get the finishes due to mechanical errors and getting caught up in people's wrecks. And now they're having cleaner races and they're better on pit road, but they're not bringing the same speed. This team is in a dire situation this early in the year. They need a hot streak. They're all the way down to 15 in the power rankings. Carson Hocevar was right into the top 5 for a good portion of the race, had a solid race. He's in the playoffs right now. Carson Hocevar, maybe Spire isn't consistent on all the tracks, but they're more consistent than they have been. Hocevar at 16. Cindric at 17. I've already talked about him a little bit. Can they limit the bad days and then their good days are even that more important? Ross Chastain with an important strategy move to get a better finish than he would have, even stayed on the lead lap. Ross Chastain, though, still lacking overall speed. He's in 18th. Suarez with a solid day. He's right there in the playoffs. He's 19th in my power rankings. Michael McDowell, the first person out of the playoffs, had a solid day. Can find speed with Spire Motorsports. He's in 20th. Thank you for taking time to listen. Please, please, please like, comment, subscribe. Plenty of great sports on. Masters, NBA, and NHL are almost to the playoffs. Find a couch, watch some sports. Stay safe. It's a crazy world out there. And peace out.